Hi, in this short video, I'd like to tell about Scrum, a very popular Agile framework for project management, which emphasizes teamwork, accountability, iterative progress towards well-defined goals. And when we're talking about Scrum, you definitely should understand three fundamental parts: Scrum roles, Scrum events, and Scrum artifacts. So let's start with Scrum roles. There are only three ones, as you can see from this slide. So, Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is referred to as a project facilitator. So, they ensure Scrum best practices are followed. The task of Scrum Master is to check that you are strictly followed Scrum guide. They must be good leaders, they must be good at collaboration, conflict resolution, and so on. The second role is product owner. This is a person who defines user stories and creates a product backlog. He knows the product well, he understands what should be created, and product owner is not equal to a customer. Developers. This is the team, and according to the Scrum Guide notes, developers are all the people in the Scrum team that are committed for creating any aspect of a usable increment each sprint. So if you're influencing the process of increment creation, of creating the product, you are considered to be a developer according to Scrum roles. The next important fundamental part, number 2, is Scrum events, or the synonym Scrum ceremonies. And the first Scrum event is sprint. This is usually a fixed period of time, like 3-4 weeks, like in a classical sense, when the team should create this increment, when they should do the defined set of tasks they've decided to do during this sprint. The first Scrum event during each sprint is sprint planning. During this meeting, all the team should decide what task will be performed during this particular sprint. So they take some tasks from product backlog to sprint backlog. This is usually like team's decision according to their capacity, according to the complexity of features that are going to be implemented during this sprint, and so on. Then a regular Scrum event, daily Scrum, as it like clear from its title, that's a 15 minutes meeting that should be held on a daily basis. During this meeting, you're going to answer to 3 simple questions. What did you do yesterday? What you're going to do today? And what are your problems, maybe blockers, to be discussed within your team? And the purpose of this event, like to be at the same page, to understand the progress of the team toward the sprint goals. At the end of the sprint, that's going to be a sprint review, or the synonym to sprint review is demo. While the sprint review, the Scrum team should show to the stakeholders, to the product owner, to the customers, the progress, the goals that were achieved during the sprint. And the main idea of the demo is to have a feedback from the stakeholders on the task that were done, on new features, maybe to discuss some blockers, and so on. The very last meeting at each sprint that closes the sprint is sprint retrospective, or retro for short. During the retrospective, the team should analyze how the sprint went, and it's usually done with the help of the board with 3 columns. What went well, what went not so well and can be improved, and the last column is action point. So the main idea is to analyze the process and try to make it better. And you can see that the last event, like colored in gray, is not actually included into the Scrum guide, but it's always held during the process of product creation. This is backlog refinement, or maybe you've heard another term for this meeting, grooming. The main idea of this meeting is to clarify the requirement, to be sure that you understand them correctly, that you understand them in the same way within your team, or maybe if there is some problems with the requirements, to identify these problems, to ask all the questions, to make the requirements better. To make them usable. Remember about the cost of mistakes. And the last part, like the last fundamental part, is Scrum artifacts. And actually, there are again only three of them: product backlog, sprint backlog, and increment. The product backlog is the list of all the tasks, features, and so on that should be created during the working with the product, for improvement the product, for creating new features, and so on. So this is the whole scope of the tasks. Sprint backlog is the list of the tasks that were chosen only to do during this sprint. So sprint backlog is like composed during sprint planning. And one more, the last but not the least, is an increment. And increment is the sum of all the product backlog items that were created during a sprint. This is actually the value of the increments of all previous sprints as well. And that's all about Scrum. This presentation can be found in our Telegram channel, so join us.